Imagine building a flawless custom patio, only for the homeowner to demand you physically move the sun because it is in their eyes. Welcome to the trades. We are looking at 69 times contractors, plumbers, and electricians had to deal with complaints so entirely divorced from basic physics and reality, it actually hurts. Let's see how many you can hear before losing your mind. 1. Imagine getting a furious voicemail at 6 in the morning because your client's brand new hardwood floor is defective. Why? Because it looks like it came from a tree. A flooring contractor actually had to drive back to a luxury condo to explain that the swirling lines on oak planks are called wood grain. The client seriously thought she bought a perfectly uniform beige material and demanded he sand off all the natural patterns. 2. You cannot control the sun, but one landscaping crew was definitely expected to. After dropping 20 grand on a custom stone patio, the homeowner filed a massive complaint about the placement. Everything matched the blueprints perfectly, but the client was livid that the morning sun was hitting her eyes during breakfast. She totally blamed the builders for not factoring in the Earth's rotation and demanded they physically rotate the 3-ton patio. 3. A master electrician successfully wired a massive kitchen remodel, only to be called back in tears. The homeowner was absolutely terrified of her new wall outlets. She claimed the 2 little plug holes and the grounding pin looked like tiny screaming faces staring at her while she cooked. The contractor literally had to swap out 20 standard outlets for a completely different style just to stop the bad vibes. 4. Smashing cinder blocks with sledgehammers is not exactly a clean process. Yet, a remodeling crew had the cops called on them for malicious property damage. The client's complaint? The workers were intentionally creating toxic dust clouds that settled on her velvet sofa. The police officers actually had to stand in a gutted living room and explain to a grown adult that destroying drywall will, in fact, create dust. 5. This plumber literally thought he was being pranked. A guy requested a top-tier rainfall shower head, got it installed, and immediately complained about the aggressive noise. He was furious that water hitting the porcelain tile floor made a splashing sound. He wanted a silent shower. The contractor had to gently break the news that gravity pulling water down onto a hard surface makes noise. And no, he could not install mute buttons on water droplets. 6. Painting walls seems pretty straightforward, right? Tell that to the guy who was threatened with a lawsuit because the living room was the wrong shade of blue. The painter rushed over in a panic, only to find the client pointing at a wall he had literally painted 10 minutes ago. It was soaking wet. He had to explain that paint, much like mud, changes color when it dries. The client still wanted a discount for her temporary emotional distress. 7. After laying a gorgeous flagstone pathway through a massive garden, the mason handed over the final invoice. The client flat out refused to pay. Her completely unhinged reasoning was that the natural rocks were not perfectly square. She argued that the mason should have melted the stones down in a mold to make them completely uniform. Natural rock, straight from the earth, was just too chaotic for her perfectly manicured backyard. 8. Let's talk about the absolute genius who complained that his new double-pane, energy-efficient windows were broken. The installation was flawless, but the guy called the company furious because his curtains were no longer blowing in the wind. The installer took a deep breath and explained that stopping the wind from coming inside is the literal definition of a window. The client honestly asked if they could drill a small hole in the glass to let some fresh air in. 9. A roofing crew showed up to fix a leak right on schedule at 8 in the morning. The homeowner stepped onto the porch in his bathrobe and instantly fired them. His complaint? Being exactly on time meant they were desperate for money, which obviously meant they were terrible at their jobs. Being punctual was literally the ultimate red flag for this guy. 10. HVAC. Guys see the absolute worst of human logic. One technician installed a state-of-the-art air conditioning system during a brutal summer heatwave. 12 hours later, the client was screaming on the phone because the machine was blowing freezing cold air and making her shiver. She had set the thermostat to 55 degrees and was somehow completely shocked that the house actually became 55 degrees. 11. Grass grows. That is simply a biological fact. But one suburban homeowner missed that day in science class. A landscaping company fully reseeded his dead front yard, turning it into a beautiful green oasis. 6 weeks later, the guy demanded his money back because the grass kept getting taller. He was deeply offended that nobody warned him he would have to buy a lawnmower, legitimately thinking they had planted a magical, self-maintaining green carpet. 12. Geometry is hard, but this complaint is just next-level stupid. An architect received a nasty email from a client living in a newly built modern loft. The guy admitted the custom staircase was great for walking up to the bedroom. However, he complained the stairs felt way too steep when walking back down. He seriously demanded the builder change the downward angle to make it less aggressive than the upward angle. 13. Have you ever tried to pull a push door? We all have. But one woman took it to the extreme. A carpenter installed a heavy, solid wood front door. The client walked up, shoved the massive metal handle, smacked her face right into the wood, and immediately started screaming about a defective installation. When the carpenter pointed out that you have to pull the handle toward you, she argued that pulling a door is physically unnatural. 14. Building a wooden deck requires screws. A contractor finished a massive outdoor patio and got a completely unhinged voicemail the very next day. The client was furious that the builder used metal fasteners to hold the wood together. He honestly thought the entire deck would just snap together perfectly without any hardware, like giant wooden Lego blocks. Seeing tiny screw heads completely ruined his outdoor minimalist aesthetic. 15. A general contractor framed a walk-in closet perfectly to the architectural plans. The homeowner walked in with her own tape measure, verified it was perfectly accurate down to the millimeter, and then threw a massive tantrum. Her complaint was that even though the math was correct, the room felt emotionally smaller than she envisioned. She seriously asked them to move a load-bearing structural wall to fix the closet's aura. 16. Swapping out an old broken water heater should make people happy. Not this lady. The morning after the install, she called the plumber in an absolute panic, threatening a massive lawsuit. She claimed he was trying to burn her house down because the water coming out of the kitchen sink was suddenly scalding hot. The plumber calmly reminded her that the entire reason she hired him was because her old unit was completely broken and only produced ice water. 17. Roofers know they will get calls about missing shingles after a storm, but nobody expects to be blamed for local wildlife. A crew finished a brand new asphalt roof and got hit with a formal grievance a week later. The problem? Birds were landing on the new shingles and leaving droppings. The client legitimately demanded the roofing company come back out and install some kind of magnetic force field to repel the neighborhood pigeons. 18. Smart homes are great until the owner is not. An electrician got an emergency late-night call from a guy who was absolutely losing his mind. Every single time he flipped the smart switch down in his bedroom, the lights turned off. The contractor paused for a long time before explaining that this is exactly how light switches have worked since they were invented. The client thought a smart home meant the lights would just read his mind. 19. A plumber installed 3 high-end toilets in a renovated house, only to be reported to the Better Business Bureau a week later. The official complaint stated the toilets were spiritually defective because the water swirled clockwise. The client read on some sketchy blog that positive energy requires a leftward flush. The plumber actually had to physically demonstrate that the American plumbing grid does not care about your chakras. 20. You literally cannot dig a hole without moving dirt. A landscaping crew was excavating a massive area for an in-ground swimming pool when the homeowner stormed out, completely losing her mind. She called the company headquarters screaming that the workers were ruining her pristine driveway by tracking mud everywhere. She fully expected them to remove 30 tons of raw earth from her backyard without letting a single speck of dirt touch the ground. 21. Installing 50 massive outdoor floodlights will absolutely illuminate your property like a baseball stadium. It will also significantly raise your electric bill. An electrician got a furious call from a client demanding compensation a month after a massive landscape lighting project. The homeowner was genuinely shocked that running industrial-grade lights every single night required actual electricity from the city grid. He thought LED meant the energy was entirely free. 22. Color theory can be confusing, but this complaint takes the cake. A professional painter spent a week coating a massive living room in a bright, pristine white. The client called back furious, claiming the paint was defective because the walls turned dark gray at night. The painter had to slowly and calmly explain the concept of darkness. The client honestly believed white paint was supposed to literally glow in the dark without any light source. 23. Have you ever been angry that your sink works too well? A plumber was forced to return to a luxury bathroom remodel because the client hated the new vanity drain. Her complaint was that the water disappeared down the pipe entirely too fast, leaving her absolutely no time to admire her expensive scented soap bubbles. She seriously demanded the plumber intentionally clog the pipe just a little bit to create a more relaxing aesthetic. 24. Seasons change, and so do trees. A landscaping crew planted 5 expensive Japanese maple trees in early September. By late November, the homeowner filed a massive grievance with the Better Business Bureau, claiming the company sold him dead, defective plants. The foreman drove out to inspect the damage, only to realize he had to explain the concept of autumn to a fully grown adult. The guy was completely unaware that leaves naturally fall off trees before winter. 25. Air conditioning is a miracle of modern science, moving heat from inside your house to the outside. One HVAC technician found himself dealing with a homeowner who called the police over this exact scientific process. The client was furious that the giant metal box sitting in her backyard was blowing warm air onto her patio furniture. She demanded the technician reprogram the outdoor unit to blow ice-cold air into the yard so she could host summer parties outside. 26. Custom carpentry is all about getting exactly what you want. A contractor built a massive floor-to-ceiling mahogany bookshelf for a home office. The client refused to pay the final bill because the shelves held entirely too many books. He complained that putting his entire collection on the massive wooden structure made the room look like a weird public library. The carpenter had to remind the guy that he literally ordered a giant bookshelf to hold his books. 27. Construction sites require a certain level of basic sanitation for the workers. A general contractor managing a major home addition got a threatening letter from the local homeowners association. The incredibly angry client complained that the blue portable toilet sitting in the driveway clashed with the neighborhood color palette. She demanded the construction crew either paint the plastic toilet a neutral beige or hold their bladders for 12 hours a day to maintain her property value. 28. Skylights are fantastic for bringing natural sunshine into a dark room. A roofer installed a beautiful glass pane right above a master bed, exactly as requested. 3 days later, the homeowner called demanding they patch the hole. The complaint was that the moon was too bright at night, and the celestial lighting was ruining her sleep cycle. She actually asked if the roofer could install a specialized glass that only let sunlight in, but entirely blocked the moon. 29. Garbage disposals are heavy-duty machines designed to shred food waste. A plumber installed a top-tier model with a massive motor. The very next day, the client called in a panic, claiming the machine was possessed. Why? Because it made a loud, terrifying grinding noise when she shoved an entire rotisserie chicken carcass down the drain. She legitimately thought a premium garbage disposal was supposed to silently vaporize solid bone like a laser beam. 30. Sometimes luxury is just too luxurious. A flooring company laid down incredibly thick, premium plush carpet throughout a massive suburban home. The homeowner called back demanding a full tear-out. Her incredibly bizarre reasoning was that the carpet was way too soft, and it was making her purebred poodle walk with a weird bouncy gait. She fully blamed the installers for destroying her dog's natural posture and demanded hard concrete floors instead. 31. Paint names are just marketing tools, but some people take them way too literally. A painter finished a baby nursery using a color officially labeled Caribbean Sea Breeze. The pregnant client was absolutely livid when she walked into the room. She complained to the company owner that the room just smelled like regular wet paint instead of coconuts and ocean salt. She honestly thought buying that specific color meant the paint doubled as a tropical air freshener. 32. Dimmer switches are a great way to control the mood in a dining room. An electrician installed a high-end rotary dimmer for a wealthy client. The guy called back furious, stating the technology was completely archaic. He complained that he actually had to walk over to the wall and use his physical hand to turn the dial. He expected the standard of $50 switch to automatically sense his emotional state and adjust the lighting accordingly. 33. Putting rocks in a garden seems totally foolproof. A landscaping crew laid tons of smooth river stones around a backyard water feature. The morning after a heavy thunderstorm, the homeowner called the foreman absolutely screaming. Her grievance was that the outdoor rocks were getting wet in the rain, which made them look shiny and completely ruined her matte backyard aesthetic. She seriously demanded the crew come back and install tiny individual umbrellas for her landscaping stones. 34. Underfloor heating is the ultimate winter luxury. An HVAC technician installed a radiant system underneath gorgeous tile floors throughout a remodeled colonial home. 2 days later, the homeowner was on the phone practically in tears. She complained that the warm floors felt so incredible she could no longer motivate herself to get off the bathroom tile and go to work in the morning. She flat out blamed the contractor for destroying her career and demanded he install a timer that killed the heat at exactly 7 a.m. to physically force her out of the house. 35. Building an outdoor deck in the northern states means dealing with the elements. A carpenter finished a massive cedar deck in late October. By January, the client was threatening a lawsuit. Her complaint stated that the builder intentionally installed the deck outside, where it was now completely covered in 2 feet of snow. She demanded he come back and move the entire wooden structure inside her living room until the spring thaw arrived. 36. Waiting for hot water can be annoying, but this guy took impatience to an entirely new level. A plumber installed a high-efficiency tankless water heater. The client timed the water flow with a stopwatch and angrily reported that it took exactly 4 seconds for the hot water to reach the kitchen sink. He considered those 4 seconds a massive violation of his human rights and demanded a system that dispensed boiling water instantly, defying the basic laws of physics. 37. Motion sensor security lights are designed to detect movement. An electrician mounted 3 incredibly bright floodlights in a dark driveway. The homeowner called the police on the contractor. His official complaint was that the lights kept turning on every single time he walked out to get the mail. He was furious that the motion sensors were actually sensing his motion and demanded the electrician program the lights to magically recognize his face and stay off when he was around. 38. Exterior painting protects your house from the weather, not from the animal kingdom. A painting crew coated an enormous wooden exterior in premium weatherproof paint. The client refused to pay the remaining balance because he found a mosquito in his living room. He loudly complained that the expensive paint job was supposed to double as industrial-strength insect repellent that kept every bug within a 5-mile radius away from his property. The contractor had to explain that latex paint and toxic pesticide are, in fact, 2 completely different products. 39. Solid wood doors are heavy and sometimes have a bit of character. A carpenter hung a beautiful custom bedroom door that worked perfectly under normal conditions. The client called back furious, claiming it squeaked loudly. The carpenter tested it 30 times with 0 noise. The client then demonstrated that it only squeaked when she pushed it open over the course of 5 agonizingly slow minutes, so she could secretly spy on her teenagers. She demanded silent espionage hinges. 40. Laying fresh sod instantly transforms a barren dirt lot into a lush green lawn. A landscaping company did a flawless job on a suburban front yard. The homeowner called 3 days later, absolutely furious. His complaint was that the brand new grass was growing in slightly different shades of green, creating what he described as an ugly patchwork quilt effect. He demanded the crew come back with bottles of green dye and hand paint every single blade to the exact same shade, so his lawn looked like a perfectly uniform putting green. 41. Smart thermostats are designed to learn your habits and save money. An HVAC technician installed one for a retired couple, only to get an angry voicemail a week later. The husband complained that the little digital box was way too smart and was actively making him feel intellectually inferior in his own home. He demanded the technician remove the computerized device and reinstall the old analog dial because he refused to be outsmarted by a piece of plastic on the wall. 42. Metal roofs are incredibly durable and can last a lifetime. A roofing crew finished a massive barn-style house just before the spring rains hit. The homeowner immediately filed a grievance. Her massive complaint was that the raindrops making contact with the steel roof created a loud tapping sound, which totally interfered with her ability to hear daytime television. She wanted the roofers to coat the entire metal surface in a giant, sound-absorbing sponge material. 43. Installing a massive soaking tub is a plumber's dream job. Getting called back because water is wet is a nightmare. A wealthy client filled her brand new porcelain tub with hot water and 2 entire bottles of slippery baby oil. She then angrily called the plumber to complain that the bottom of the tub was dangerously slick. She legitimately demanded he rip out the expensive porcelain and install grip tape like you would find on a skateboard deck. 44. Ceiling fans have one job, which is moving air around a room. An electrician hung a heavy-duty fan directly over a master bed. The very next morning, the angry homeowner demanded it be removed. Her complaint was that the spinning blades created a breeze that messed up her hair while she was trying to sleep. The electrician gently suggested she simply use the remote to turn the fan off, but she insisted the physical existence of the fan was the problem. 45. Working construction in the summer heat requires massive amounts of hydration. A general contractor received a furious email from a client watching the crew from her kitchen window. She formally complained that the workers were drinking bottled water from their own coolers and looking entirely too hydrated on her dime. She actually thought taking a 10-second water break was a direct violation of their contract and demanded they work completely parched to maximize her financial investment. 46. Psychological color associations are real, but this is pushing it. A painter was hired to spray an entire kitchen in a vibrant neon yellow. The client loved it for exactly 3 days before calling in a panic. She complained that the bright yellow walls were subconsciously making her crave bananas all day long, leading to unwanted weight gain. She demanded the painter come back and repaint the kitchen in a color that would suppress her appetite, like mud brown. 47. Mulch is basically shredded tree bark that protects your garden beds and looks great doing it. A landscaper spread 10 yards of premium cedar mulch throughout a wealthy client's flower beds. The very next morning, the homeowner called headquarters in a total rage. Her complaint was that the mulch smelled like wood. Not chemicals, not rot, just regular fresh cedar. She was personally offended that a product made entirely from shredded trees had the audacity to smell like a forest, and demanded the crew replace every last chip with something that had 0 scent whatsoever. 48. Building a massive 2-story addition onto a house completely changes the layout of a property. A builder framed the new structure exactly to the city-approved blueprints. The client walked out back and threw a massive fit. His complaint was that the new, giant, solid wood walls were entirely blocking his view of the neighbor's driveway. He actually asked the builder if they could make the load-bearing exterior walls transparent so he could keep spying on the people next door. 49. Winter weather makes everything cold, including porcelain bathroom fixtures. A plumber installed a standard toilet in a chilly, unheated half bath. the client called the office in January demanding a full replacement. Her complaint was that sitting on the toilet seat at 3 in the morning was uncomfortably freezing. She honestly thought the plumber had intentionally installed a defective, refrigerated toilet seat just to torture her, and demanded a model that naturally generated its own body heat. 50. Doorbells usually just make a simple ding-dong sound. An electrician installed a standard digital chime in a modern entryway. The edgy homeowner called back the next day absolutely furious. He complained that the high-pitched chime was way too happy and cheerful, which completely ruined his dark, brooding personality aesthetic. He seriously demanded the electrician rewire the digital box to emit a low, ominous groan every time the delivery driver dropped off a package. 51. Air filters exist specifically to trap dust and dirt before it ruins your HVAC system. A technician went out for a routine maintenance call and was immediately yelled at by the homeowner. The guy pulled out a filthy, clogged air filter and complained that the system was horribly designed because it kept making his filters dirty. He literally thought the cardboard filter was supposed to magically vaporize the dust into another dimension and remain perfectly pristine forever. 52. Chairs have 4 legs for a very specific structural reason. A custom carpenter spent weeks hand-carving a set of beautiful dining chairs. The client took delivery and immediately filed a complaint. She stated that while the craftsmanship was excellent, she had recently read a design blog and decided that 3 legs looked way more modern. She demanded the carpenter come back and saw off 1 leg from every single chair, completely ignoring the basic physics of gravity. 53. Black objects absorb heat from the sun. This is something most people learn in kindergarten. A roofer installed a premium architectural black shingle roof in the middle of a brutal Texas summer. The homeowner called the very next day, threatening to call the news. His massive complaint was that the dark black shingles were getting incredibly hot after baking in the sun for 12 straight hours. He honestly thought roofing materials were supposed to be naturally refrigerated. 54. Desert landscaping is incredibly popular in dry climates. A crew planted a massive, expensive cactus garden exactly where the client requested. 2 weeks later, the homeowner called the company headquarters, screaming in pain. She complained that she had drunkenly stumbled into the garden and discovered that the giant cacti were dangerously prickly. She legitimately demanded the landscapers return with tiny scissors to snip the sharp points off of thousands of cactus needles to make the yard childproof. 55. High-gloss paint looks fantastic on interior trim, giving it a bright, shiny finish. A painter used top-tier gloss on a bathroom vanity. The client called the next morning demanding he sand it all down. Her incredibly strange complaint was that the glossy paint was so shiny, it faintly reflected her face when she sat on the toilet. She was furious because she absolutely did not want to see her own blurry reflection that early in the morning. 56. Outdoor hose bibs dispense water. That is literally their only function. A plumber installed a new spigot on the side of a brick house. The homeowner called the police claiming the plumber booby-trapped her yard. Her official grievance was that every time she turned the metal handle to the open position, aggressive water sprayed out of the pipe. She genuinely thought the handle was just a decorative architectural feature and was completely shocked that plumbing contained actual liquid. 57. Whole home backup generators are expensive pieces of machinery designed to kick on automatically during a power outage. An electrician installed a massive unit for a wealthy family. Following a massive storm, the client called in a rage. He complained that the generator turned itself on when the grid failed, and the loud engine noise startled his expensive exotic parrot. He demanded the automatic system be disabled so he could personally ask the bird for permission before restoring the electricity. 58. Soundproofing a room requires thick walls and specialized acoustic panels. A builder created the ultimate silent media room in a luxury basement. The client refused to pay the final bill. His completely unhinged complaint was that the room was entirely too quiet. He stated that the absolute silence made him hyper-aware of his own heartbeat, which caused him severe existential dread. He actually asked the builder to install a hidden speaker that played faint traffic noises to calm his nerves. 59. Central air conditioning cools the spaces where the vents are located. An HVAC guy got a vicious email from a client after installing a massive new system. The homeowner complained that his living room was freezing, but his 3-car, uninsulated garage was still boiling hot. The technician had to explicitly draw a diagram showing that the ductwork did not extend into the concrete garage. The client honestly believed the cold air would just magically seep through solid walls. 60. Gravel driveways are an affordable and classic landscaping choice. A crew dumped and leveled 20 tons of crushed stone for a long country driveway. The homeowner called the next day demanding they vacuum it all up. Her bizarre complaint was that the loose rocks made a loud crunching sound when her massive SUV drove over them. She fully expected the landscapers to have sourced perfectly silent stealth gravel that defied the laws of friction. 61. Baseboards are the wooden trim pieces that run along the bottom of a wall, right where it meets the floor. A painter spent days carefully rolling high-end enamel on miles of floor trim. The client inspected the work and threw a full-blown tantrum. His totally serious complaint was that the freshly painted baseboards were located entirely too close to the floor. The painter just stared at him, completely unable to explain the fundamental definition of a baseboard. 62. Dual flush toilets save water by offering a small button for liquid and a large button for solid waste. A plumber installed one in a trendy downtown condo. The wealthy client filed a formal complaint a week later. She claimed the toilet was entirely too stressful to operate. She stated that forcing her to look at her waste and make a calculated flushing decision every single time caused her severe decision fatigue, and demanded a dumb toilet instead. 63. Smoke detectors save lives and are legally required in all new construction. An electrician hardwired a massive safety system throughout a newly built house. The homeowner called the inspector trying to get the contractor's license revoked. His massive issue was that the brand new detectors flashed a tiny green LED light every 60 seconds to show they were working. He complained that the microscopic green blink completely ruined the pitch-black, cavernous vibe of his hallway. 64. Gutters have one simple job: catching rain running off a roof and directing it away from the foundation. A roofer installed a seamless aluminum system perfectly around a custom home. The client called demanding they be ripped down immediately. Her genuinely insane complaint was that the gutters were catching all the water, completely ruining the beautiful waterfall effect she used to enjoy watching outside her kitchen window. She preferred a flooded basement over losing her scenic roof runoff. 65. A 6-foot privacy fence is great for keeping out neighbors and blocking heavy winds. A carpenter built hundreds of feet of solid cedar fencing around a suburban lot. The homeowner called the next day absolutely livid. His complaint was that the thick wooden barrier actually blocked the wind, making his backyard feel entirely too stagnant and stuffy. He legitimately asked the builder to drill thousands of tiny aerodynamic holes in the wood to let the breeze flow through. 66. Trees are large, living organisms that keep growing long after they are planted. A landscaping crew installed a gorgeous row of arborvitae along a property line for total privacy. 2 years later, the homeowner called demanding a full refund. Her furious complaint was that the trees had grown significantly taller since the day they were planted, completely blocking a mountain view she never once mentioned wanting to preserve. She accused the company of selling her defective plants that refused to stop growing and demanded they come back and have a serious conversation with the trees about boundaries. 67. Automatic garage doors require a remote control or a physical button to operate. A builder finished a custom home with heavy-duty, insulated metal garage doors. The eccentric client sent an angry, threatening email stating the house was defective. He complained that he stood in his driveway for 10 minutes yelling "Open Sesame" at the top of his lungs, and the doors refused to move. He literally thought modern construction included highly advanced fairy tale voice recognition software. 68. Plumbing pipes run inside the walls and underneath the floors, so you do not have to look at them. A plumber finished roughing in a massive luxury bathroom and covered it all with drywall. The homeowner refused to pay the bill. His totally serious complaint was that the pipes were hidden behind the walls, making him feel cheated. He argued that since he paid thousands of dollars for premium copper piping, he deserved to visibly stare at it while showering. 69. Construction projects are infamous for running over budget and taking months longer than expected. A general contractor successfully flipped this stereotype, completing a massive home remodel exactly on budget and a week ahead of schedule. The client actually called the main office to formally complain. She was incredibly angry that the flawless execution left her with absolutely nothing to complain to her friends about during her weekly book club. She seriously demanded they break something just to create some drama. At what point do you just pack your tools and walk away? I want to know your breaking point. What is the absolute most brain-dead complaint you have ever had to handle at your own job with a straight face? Expose your worst clients and customers in the comments right now. Hit that like button if you respect the trades, and subscribe before your next shift.